Welcome to another 5-pound challenge where we try to feed the whole family for just under 5 pounds. Today, we're making Coca-Cola wings with a bit of rice and a bit of salad. Let's do it. First, let's cook the rice. Now, you cook it in accordance to the instructions, use a rice cooker, cook it however you like. Now, while the rice is cooking, we prep our iceberg lettuce to make it extra crunchy. We remove the wilted outer leaves. Cut this in half. We add a very generous amount of salt and some ice water. This will firm up the iceberg lettuce a bit, making them extra crunchy. This goes into the fridge while we prep our chicken wings. For the wings, very simple. For the illusion of a generous serving, you separate the wing from the drum. Find the joint, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Knife goes straight through. You don't have to do it this way, by the way. I'm too lazy to wash another chopping board. If you're not confident with your knife, do it on the board. Now, we season very generously with salt, black pepper, and we're ready to cook. Very hot wok. You can use a pan. The only reason I'm using a wok is I want to shallow fry them a tiny bit. And the shape of the wok allows me to use a bit less oil. If you're doing it in a pan, do them in batches so that you don't crowd the pan too much. All right, once the wok is hot, we add a generous amount of vegetable oil. We can always skim some off later. Once the oil is shimmering, wings go in. And be ready for some splashing. Use a pair of tongs to do what I'm doing. Once everything is coated in fat, we let it cook. If you follow a lot of cooking shows, it's very fashionable to toss the wok in a professional kitchen. But that's because the burners in those kitchens are so strong, you could afford the heat loss. In a domestic kitchen, especially if you have an induction stove, the moment you toss, you're losing heat. But what we want to do is we want to maximize the heat that is in contact with the chicken. That will first evaporate the surface moisture of the chicken. Then we'll get to brown the chicken. Maillard reaction. Protein reacting to high heat. That's what's going to make the chicken taste meaty. And that's what's going to differentiate this from boiled chicken. So we let the wok do its magic. Then we can place chef and toss. Now, the boiling sound has turned into a sizzle. That's when you know most of the surface moisture has evaporated. Now we turn them more frequently for browning. Once the chicken has taken on some decent color, we lower the heat so we could skim off some of the fat we added earlier. This is optional, of course, because remember, the chicken skin also released a lot of chicken fat. Now, the star ingredient and the most expensive ingredient of this whole meal, the Coca-Cola. Besides the gimmicky effect, what the Coca-Cola has is A, sugar, B, acidity, and C, browning. The browning effect. When you reduce it properly, it's going to create this lovely sweet and sour taste with a caramel texture. £1.75, £1.95. The whole bottle goes in. We bring this back to a boil, lid on, and we let it simmer at medium heat for about 20 minutes. Now, we have our iceberg lettuce soaked in salted ice water. We just shred them thin, and that's our salad ready. All right, after about 20 minutes, check on the wings. Now, we use a fork to see how much resistance it offers. Once you have the desired texture, we reduce this down to a glaze on high heat. Chicken wings, similar to chicken legs, they're very resilient to long cooking, so I'm not worried about overcooking them. The reduction, it's what's going to give us the intense sweetness and the caramel texture that the Coca-Cola offers. They're not paying me for this, by the way. Remember to keep scraping the edges, because otherwise they burn. Once there's not much liquid left, now you have to mother it. There's a very fine line between caramel wings and burnt wings. The closer you get to caramel, the more vigorous you stir. Now we're forming a very beautiful glaze for the wings. And that's all from the Coca-Cola. Beautiful. Now we're ready. Whew, not too bad. We have more than enough rice to feed a whole village. And we have our wonderfully glazed Coca-Cola wings. I just want to show you the texture. This is incredible. No starch, no roux, and very hot. Let's plate one, shall we? Take a bowl, take our plate. Now, take some beautiful iceberg lettuce. Beautiful shape. Well, almost perfect. Glaze the ring. And of course, this incredible glaze, courtesy of Coca-Cola. And there you have it. Dinner for 4 people for precisely £5. This is Coca-Cola wings with a bit of rice and a bit of salad. I really hope you enjoy.